What's up, YouTube? Have you wondered if you should switch from Affinity Designer to VectorStyler? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. Welcome back. My name is Ben Nielsen. I'm a media design educator, and today we're talking about why I'm not going to switch from Affinity Designer to VectorStyler. A couple weeks ago, I looked at VectorStyler for the first time and was really impressed with what it was able to do. It had a lot of the tools that Affinity Designer misses from Adobe Illustrator, things like the shape builder tool and the blend tool, a pattern tool. The list goes on and on for tools that it has. It's very close to Adobe Illustrator in many ways, and a lot of the tools that designers have wished they had in Affinity Designer are there in VectorStyler. And so you have to think about whether or not you might want to use VectorStyler as opposed to Affinity Designer, and that's what I've been thinking about. And there's a few reasons that I've come down to for why I personally am not going to switch. But these are reasons that are specific to me, my workflow, and the way that I design. So it might not be the case for you. You might need some of those tools, and VectorStyler may be the most cost-efficient way for you to get them. So first off, let's talk about that cost. So VectorStyler is more expensive, and of course I already own Affinity Designer, and so it would be an extra expense for me to spend the $95 to get the full version of VectorStyler, whereas when I was looking at it, I was just using the free trial. Again, they're really generous on that free trial. They give you like 42 days on it, so there's plenty of time for you to try it out and see if it works for you before you commit to it. So I don't think the cost thing is a huge thing, but it would be extra money to spend, and I don't feel that I need to because of the other reasons. Probably my biggest reason for not switching over to VectorStyler is the ecosystem that exists in Affinity programs. Affinity has created an ecosystem, but they don't have a subscription price, which is kind of unique, and it really is great. I do most of my work actually in Affinity Publisher, accessing the tools from Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo from within that interface, because I just find that is a better workflow for me to have everything all together in one place. When I'm doing it, I can just switch over to the designer persona and deal with my vector stuff. I can switch over to the publisher persona and deal with my layout stuff. And I can switch over to the photo persona and deal with my raster stuff. So it just makes it really easy. And VectorStyler doesn't have that ecosystem. Although it can do a lot of things that Affinity Designer can't, it also misses out on those pieces of the ecosystem for layout and for raster graphics. And I don't know that that's necessarily something that they're trying to do, but it's something that I have found super useful in my workflow. Along with that, VectorStyler doesn't seem to have the tools to really deal with pixel work, whereas Affinity Designer has the full pixel persona built in, so there's a lot of tools that are very much like Photoshop already built into Affinity Designer. Even if you're not using Affinity Publisher and Studio Link, it just makes it really easy to deal with pixel issues. And so that's a good reason, within the context of just Affinity Designer and VectorStyler, to judge between the two. That's one of the things that really has set Affinity Designer apart from things like Adobe Illustrator, is its ability to deal with pixel perfect works. A third reason is that I really don't feel I need to. I have been able to do everything I need to do within the Affinity programs, and so I don't really feel any need to switch at this point to completely jump in and be working with a different program with different file types and that kind of thing. So it's just easier for me to stay in Affinity Designer, which is what's happened with a lot of people with Adobe, right? A lot of people say it's just easier for me to stay with Adobe. And so now we kind of have the same thing with Affinity. Because I've been using them for so long, it's just easier for me to stay with them. My last reason I think is also really important, and that is the iPad apps. There are no iPad apps for VectorStyler, but there are fully fledged iPad apps for both Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo. And moving your documents between the iPad and the desktop is really easy because they all share the same file type. And because I do so much work on my iPad, I find this to be really useful to have. Now, you may not do a lot of work on your iPad, so that may not be a consideration for you at all, but if you do like to use the iPad for creative work, I think Affinity is still the way to go. They have the best iPad apps out there, really fully functioning just like their desktop apps are. And so that's another major reason that I won't be switching over to VectorStyler. Now, all that being said, I was really impressed when I was using VectorStyler and trying it out. It seemed to have a lot of these tools, and they seem to work quite well, just the way they do in Adobe Illustrator. So I think for a lot of people, VectorStyler might present a really compelling reason. It is almost twice as expensive as Affinity Designer, but it's less expensive than buying the entire Affinity suite. Now, of course, Affinity sometimes goes on sale, so you can get a good deal on it. And I don't know yet because I've just recently been introduced to VectorStyler, whether it ever goes on sale, but I would guess that probably sometime around the holidays, Black Friday, that kind of thing, there's probably be a sale on it as well. I hope so, and that might be a great time for people who've done the trial and have decided that they really like it to go ahead and buy into it. But now I want to hear from you. Go ahead, drop in the comments. Tell me, have you tried out VectorStyler? Have you tried out Affinity Designer? Which one do you like better if you've tried both of them? Or what do you like about the ones that you've tried? Are you thinking about switching from one program to another? If so, what are the reasons that you're thinking about switching? All right, that's it for this week. We'll chat in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.